What is up, lads? My name is Landon. Today I'm bringing you guys yet again another video, and for today's video, we are talking about 100 Thieves. Not 100 Thieves, but 100 Thieves. It took me a while to learn that, overcasting them and trying to figure out their names. It's been a little bit of an issue, but once I've got it down, 100 Thieves. But the reason we are talking about 100 Thieves today is that there's actually been a roster change that has happened with them. I think the definition of roster change isn't really necessarily true because they haven't really changed anyone out for the player that ended up leaving. But still, they're still looking out for that. We're going to be talking about who potentially could be in this person's place, who actually was released, and what is all going down with 100 Thieves. What are they going to do, especially with their poor performances in both the game types known as uplink and CTF. So around 11 or 10 Eastern time in the US or in the States, Nelson actually tweeted out a twit longer saying sorry/future, which to me was like, okay, this is probably them making a roster change. This is him kind of announcing it. I don't think he's the captain. I'm pretty sure at the time, I didn't know this at the time, but I was for sure that Royalty was the captain. Like, why would he tweet this out? Either way though, I was a little bit confused, and as I start to read it, he basically kind of goes along to say, in layman's terms, essentially that he was not happy on this team. He realizes that their struggles in uplink and CTF have occurred, and he's going to officially leave the team. I don't think it was really a surprise to see a roster change come from the 100 Thieves lineup. This to me was just not the player that I had in mind. And honestly, when you're struggling with both uplink and CTF, there's a number of different factors that come into it. You know, what are their issues exactly? Like, you know, is it just the fact of killing? Is it an issue with someone not wanting to play the objective? Like, what exactly is their problem? And from what I've been able to watch, of course, I haven't really been able to watch too much of their gameplay, but when I have, it seems that they're playing their uplinks like their hard points. Like they're rotating to certain points, but they're just really and legitimately not getting the kills that really matter. They're not always having a drone carrier at the back of their base kind of defending him, so on and so forth. Not in some ways wrapping back around. Like they have a lot of little minute issues that completely change games for them no matter what. I think as it stands, they've lost every single uplink game as far as Call of Duty World League goes. I think they've won one CTF, I believe, in a Call of Duty World League match. So with that in mind, you've lost as many uplinks, as many CTFs as you played. They're like, what, 0-8 in uplinks, and I'm not sure how many times they've gotten through it, but they've only won one of their CTF games, which to me is pretty terrible. Of course, when we look at their game types, they're a really, really strong hardpoint team. When it comes into the search and story, they're also very talented at that as well. You know, in this twit longer, which I'll go back to, you know, Nelson mentioned countless times. He kind of talked about their uplink struggles. I shouldn't be on a 2-6 team where there's zero signs of improvement, and that just goes to show that this team maybe wasn't motivated in his opinion. And I've seen him grind a lot. I've been seeing him try to stream. I've been seeing him try to do a number of different things. But according to his perspective, the team did not want to get better, and there were no signs of improving when it came down to the league. Now, is this a smart decision? And I'm gonna point out one thing that he actually says near the end of his spiel, I guess you could say. And then he says, "Don't tell me sorry or treat me like this is a bad thing. I'm actually going out to celebrate that I'm free finally." Now, I don't know what was going on with the internal issues with Nelson, but to celebrate that you are now leaving a stable position in your Call of Duty career, probably the biggest moment of your life when it comes down to Call of Duty, and you're celebrating that you are leaving the team, to me either is like he is incredibly happy to get off this team for whatever reason. I really don't know what else to say to that. Like, to say that you are excited to leave a team, to me, is kind of worrying. Of course, we do have MLG Anaheim up after this, but I don't really see this as a improvement. I see this as more as of a decline, to be completely honest with you. But either way, though, he kind of says, if anyone wants the team for Anaheim, feel free to let me know, and I'm sure he'll get on a team just due to his, you know, notice of being in some ways in the Call of Duty World League for a couple weeks, so on and so forth, and yeah. But that's really surprising to me. I mean, this 100 Thieves roster, I don't think Nelson, I don't want to say like anyone's the issue here. I don't think it's like a one-player issue that we have, like, oh, you know, examples is the reason why they're losing uplink and CTFs. Like, no, like there would be times where they would win uplink and CTF regardless of your teammates doing well. I mean, that's happened in a lot of Call of Duty World League matches. One player is struggling, doesn't matter. The other guys will pick it up at times, and of course, you have to have a lot of consistency when it comes down to this game. But generally, an issue with two game types, 2 of the 4 game types, does not rely on one player being the problem. And I feel like Nelson, to me, as far as the weakest link, if you want to call it on this roster, Nelson isn't that guy. I mean, I was able to watch his matches. I think they were playing Breach Hardpoint the other day, and he was holding down hills. I mean, he was playing incredibly well. They had a massive lead versus Rise Nation in the Hardpoint, and that is a very, very big deal. Just because you lost, you got to take a lot of positives away from your games. Like, it's not just, oh, we lost to Rise Nation. It's that, you know what, we were up, we had a couple issues that ended up making us lose this, but if we can improve improve on those little things, we could be a top hardpoint team in the game. And I think at times they were labeled as that. Off of week 1, everyone was curious, how they would perform, how would the 100 Thieves roster do. Of course, the old team known as King Poppy, obviously gets picked up by Nadeshot, who obviously has his new organization known as 100 Thieves, said it correctly that time. And in their first matchup against TSM, they ended up taking that one to a game 5, on which they win the hardpoint, they win the search and destroy, but they lose the uplink in CTF, and they narrowly, well, I say narrowly, but they end up walking away with the game 5 victory. So off the start, they kind of surprised a lot of people. They're like, okay, this is where we kind of have, and some was like off of week 1, 2, 3, and I would say even 4. That's kind of where you're getting a little bit of a generality of where these players are going to lie at, who are the top teams right now, and based on how the standings are for right now, I think honestly anything could happen. I mean, DT and H2K are the top 2 teams in the league, or at least they were heading into this week, which is just absurd. Like, it's weird to think about. I believe later down, I'm going to kind of go back to his tweet longer. He essentially says later down the line, he thinks that he's not going to be the only player who'll be released from this squad, and immediately everyone's thinking, oh, we got to get rid of Examples, because Examples to me is a great player. He's not a bad guy whatsoever. He is a little bit newer when it comes down to playing at a high level. I've heard of Chance before. I've heard obviously of Nelson in the past. Of course, we all know of Royalty back in Advanced Warfare, especially being on Epsilon.NA, but he was a newer face to me that I not really heard of too much, and it seems that maybe it's just the fact of a little bit of nerves coming into play when you're playing these online matches, whatever it may be. I think he's a good player, but when it comes down to it, I think he might be the player that they eliminate. Now, the question to be asking is, we kind of close out the video, and I want you guys to put down your thoughts in the comments below. I know this has been very sporadic, but it's just overall a conversation about what the 100 Thieves roster has accomplished, what maybe to kind of look forward to, so on and so forth. And the question is, who do they now acquire for at least one player, if not 2 players, being in the case? Because I'm sure if Nelson was talking about this, I know these guys talk a lot of the times, they're very close, at least I thought they were, very close to one another. A younger team, you think that they would have maybe a lot more chemistry than most squads would, but it seems like he has a little bit of knowledge when it comes down to it. I really wouldn't surprise me at all if we do end up seeing 2 players be released from this team, and of course the pickup of 2 others. And with week 6 rapidly approaching, being that roster lock time, you gotta imagine these changes are going to happen very, very soon. So like I said, who are the players that they target? Who are the players that they go after? Because there are certain teams in the league right now, not really gonna, I guess I can name a few, who I think potentially could make a roster change. One of them specifically being Complexity, who desperately is in need of something to happen to this team. I think they are finishing off maybe 2-0 this week, actually. Did they finish off 2-0 this week? No, they finished 1-1. Rise ended up 3-0 though. I was thinking that the Complexity had a win. Maybe it was last week or something like that. I'm not really sure, but still. So you do have to keep in mind, while teams are being made, especially for Anaheim, of course, roster changes might be coming around with the Call of Duty World League. Do we see teams on CLG, Echo Fox, rosters that are being formed? Do we see those teams, those players, in some ways, do we see roster changes go on with those teams? That's a question to be asking right now. And 2 players that I've heard being brought up more as time has gone on, whether it's been on Reddit, on Twitter, whenever I, tweeted this out of Nelson leaving 100 Thieves, what would come of this? Everyone was like, oh, Parasite would work really well, and also Remy. And I think that those 2 players could definitely change the whole landscape of this roster, but you have to keep in mind the roles that they already have. So say that they do get rid of Examples, of course Nelson already being gone. Now you're looking for 2 sub players, an objective player especially. Well, that's where Remy kind of comes in. Remy, of course, being an experienced SMG player, as well as an objective player, plays very well at that role, especially support overall, fits the role of a kinetic armor, so on and so forth. He just blends with this team. Of course, being, I believe, a previous teammate, maybe not. I think he's played with Royalty in the past, if not both of them have been involved with a Team Revenge organization in the past. And then also bring on the likes of Parasite, which I think, honestly, and some people's opinions, everyone knows Parasite, especially ever since I heard that Twitch conversation with them and DT. I mean, my opinion on Parasite has been a certain way for a long time, but granted, he is a very, very talented player. And now, granted, he's not going to provide the best motivation, he's not going to be the best teammate in the world, but he can, in some ways, help this roster, improve when it comes down to game types in which they're not very, I guess you could say their experience lacks, is what I'm trying to say here. Of course, Parasite, everyone knows, been playing this game for a long time, the definition of a veteran when it comes down to the college scene, and the definition of a veteran when it comes down to team changes, because the amount of rosters that he's been on as well. But still, I believe also Remy essentially being dropped, for those who don't know, from Elevate not too long ago in place. Felony is now found his home on CLG alongside of Aches Methods and BL Fire. Does he leave that team? Is he already contracted with that team? We don't know exactly the answer to that. It is a big decision in the fact of, do I leave an established organization heading into MLG Anaheim, assuming that he doesn't already have a contract, and go over to a league team that doesn't have the best record, that's going to have an addition of 2 new players, 50% of their team has changed as far as their communication, their gameplay, so on and so forth. Everything is going to change for this team. Does he make that risk? Is he not happy with CLG? We don't exactly know that. I wish I'd been able to watch more of CLG's moments of their streams and stuff like that. I don't really think that any of them stream in the first place, but if they did, I would definitely be watching out for that. And I think through Complexity's issues that we've seen with them have in the past couple of weeks, Parasite has looked even more and more valuable as time has gone on, saying on Twitter, I can't believe believe that this is what they dropped me for, you know, and so on and so forth. I mean, complexity team roster changes are definitely looming. Do they pick back up Parasite? Anything could really happen, though. But I think out of the two, I think the safest bet for them to go with is definitely Parasite, who can definitely change up the team roles. I think, honestly, Royalty can rock with an AR or a sub. I mean, the man can really just dominate with anything. Who do they bring on this team? That's the question to be asking. And I want this question, along with the conversation, to go down in the comments to kind of translate what your guys' thoughts are on the 100 Thieves lineup. Their struggles in uplink and CTF seem to be definitely a problem. The departure of Nelson leaving this roster, you guys think this could definitely impact them a lot? And the whole fact of Nadeshot being the owner. Can you imagine him signing a player known as Parasite, who have had a lot of issues in the past? It's not as big of a deal as it would be maybe like Aches, but Parasite adding to the team. Would Nadeshot even think of trying to do that, or does he even really care? That's the question to be asking right now on who and what 100 Thieves does at the current time, especially with, like I said, roster lock looming. And of course, they're missing one player, and I don't think they actually have a substitute as far as I know. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and also make sure to subscribe for future content. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video yet again. More content to come. I am going to be on vacation in the next couple of days, but I will be having videos lined up for you guys as well. If you guys want to check out my second channel where I do Let's Plays, feel free to do that now down in the description. Click that link, and I'll see you guys all later. Have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace out, lads.